Hi ladies. Hello. Jaki Sabourin here, and I'm holding my date night video for those of you who have a date or you're dating. I think this is going to help you. And if you're in a relationship, because I want to talk to you about how to deal with anger in relationships and not clap back. So what I mean by not clap back is don't throw that brick back. So sometimes those bricks come in as emotionally speaking, and either we get angry or we get triggered, or the man we're dating is angry. Maybe he's angry about a divorce. Maybe he lost, has a broken heart. And sometimes anger can be masked by pain. That's usually what's beneath the anger. But what I mean by don't clap back is don't throw that brick back. So I like to say, when somebody throws you a brick, you want to take the brick and set the brick down. You don't want to throw it back, but it's hard sometimes, especially when we get triggered, or if somebody gets triggered in dating and relationship. So the number one thing that I want you to do, hi Terry, is to make sure that when you're in a situation where there's somebody's angry or you're angry, is you want to address it. That's the most important thing, is you want to make sure that you address the anger. And you can do it like this. You can say, I'm really angry about this. You can express it verbally, or you can ask that person that you're with. You can say, I'm picking up that you're angry, or I'm picking something up. What you want to do is, hi Dinah, you want to not minimize it, but you definitely want to address it right away. Any kind of anger is very toxic for your relationship. Let's look at the purpose of anger. Anger comes in so that you can be aware that your boundary has been violated. And so the purpose for anger is just that. It's just a signal, a message from your higher self, letting you know that whatever just happened isn't okay with you. As soon as you get that message, there's no more need for anger. The anger has served its purpose. Now you have to take action to protect your boundaries, but you need to do that in a emotionally mature, highly functional way. So if a man that you're with in your relationship or you're dating has anger, then what you can do is hi Ray, nice to see you. Hi Holly, as you can address it right away. I really recommend addressing this. And I was in a situation where there was some anger coming forward on one of my dates, and I know enough about anger. Most of the time, it's usually sourcing from pain. If you ever think about, if you've been angry about something, it typically comes from being in pain. Yeah, maybe somebody betrayed you, or you feel abandoned, or whatever is behind it. So you want to try to consider that. So if a man's angry, you want to try to not take it personal, and ask him what it's about. Say, I'm picking up some anger, and I'm just wondering, what this is about, what you're really upset about, and try to address it in that moment. Because to hold on to anger, it's very toxic for you, and it's toxic for the other person, and it's toxic for your relationship. Like I said, the purpose of anger has been served. Once you know that a boundary has been violated, there's no more need for anger. So when I was in the situation dating, a man that I was dating got really uptight on the date, and I was like, I think that there's something going on with you, and I'm wondering if you've really processed what happened to you in your divorce. Because as long as this anger, stays present in you without you addressing it, you're gonna you're going to project it onto me. And I don't want a man to project his anger onto me. I don't even like my husband to project his frustration or anger onto me. It's not fun to be on the other end of anger and to be the recipient of that. So you have to learn to hold your boundaries. But you don't hold a boundary by throwing a brick back, throwing anger back, because then it escalates, right? So it's better to just address it. And if you come from love, it's really soothes everything. When you come from a place of really wanting to understand their point of view, and when you can do that, it usually dissipates. The anger can usually, go down from a 10 down to a 2. And so the second thing is that when somebody's angry, the best thing you can do, and I just mentioned this, is to stay calm. It's so important to remain calm, and it's the hardest thing to do when you feel under attack. If somebody's, you know, chirping at you, it's hard not to want to throw that brick back. And so, but it's really unhealthy, right? And we want to have healthy relationships. So there's a lot of motivation to hold the brick. So if somebody throws a brick at you, you want to take the brick, comes in, it feels like a brick. That's why I use a brick metaphor. Somebody throws a brick at you, emotionally speaking, it's like, wow, that kid comes in hard and fast. But you want to put that brick down, because what that's going to do is it's going to keep the situation from escalating. And then as you continue to remain really calm, you can explore a conversation on why you're angry. And if you can't explore the conversation in that moment, what I recommend that you do is set aside some time when you can discuss it. And that can sound like this. You can say, I'm picking up that you're angry or frustrated about something, and I'm just wondering if we can talk about it later, after we've had a little time out or had some perspective, or after you've had a chance to process. And I know these sound like words that maybe women use, but you know what? Men are really receptive to this kind of languaging. It's just we have to get used to presenting it in a way that is receptive to a man, and that's by remaining calm. So if we're the one who's angry, it's not functional for you to project, throw the brick to somebody else. Remember what I said in the first part is the anger is there to serve a purpose. It helps you to identify that something has happened or hasn't happened that is a boundary violation for you. So sometimes it's what wasn't done. Somebody made a promise to you and they don't keep that promise. And that could cause you to feel anger because there's a boundary. You had an expectation, they made a promise and they didn't keep it. So there's a natural feeling of anger. Once you identify that, then from that place, you go, aha, okay, thank you for revealing this to me. Now I know why I'm angry. Now, from that place, you need to take action to set up a time to communicate how you feel so that you can resolve it. Because the worst thing that you can do is to not address your own emotional feelings. If you feel anger, you have a right to feel that way. Your feelings aren't good, bad, wrong, or right. They're just how you're feeling. But to project those onto somebody else, that's where the dysfunction starts. You have to take full responsibility for all your feelings because they're just that. They're your feelings. And if you want to get into a relationship with an emotionally mature, highly functional man, which I know you do, then you need to demonstrate that you're an emotionally mature, highly functional woman. And I know you all have it in you, especially if you watch a whole bunch of my videos. So the last part, you're welcome, Jax. The last part is to validate, give value, give value. This is really important. And a lot of people forget about how important it is. When somebody gives value to your feelings or you give value to their feelings, you feel better faster. So it's just acknowledgement. That's all it is. A simple acknowledgement about you're angry. So it's like, I can see that you're angry about what happened earlier. I'd like an opportunity to talk to you about it. So as soon as you validate and say, I see you're angry, or you have a right to be angry. So that's not, validation isn't agreeing or condoning. It's just acknowledging. And so you want to make sure that you make that distinction. So you're just acknowledging that they have these feelings and they have a right to feel the way they feel, but you don't have to own it. You don't have to own anybody's anger, their feelings, because they're their feelings. So if you can begin to make these distinctions, it's going to really empower you, because as soon as we revert to yelling or we become angry, in response to the anger, then we revert to childlike behavior, right? And then we're no better than the person angry. So it really is so powerful when you can process your angry feelings. And the first thing you want to do with that is to validate yourself as well. Give value to your own feelings. Well, it's normal that I'm feeling angry. Anybody that was stood up, that was lied to, that was cheated on, abandoned, whatever, would be angry too. So that's how you validate your own feelings. Anybody that experienced what I experienced would feel angry too. And that's showing up as your own best friend. And that's what you want to do. You want to meet your emotional needs from within first, and then you take them to the other person, because they're your needs, not the other person. So when you take full responsibility for your life, it's so exciting, because when you take full responsibility for your life and everything that you've done and created, you can create anything you want. It's when we aren't able to take responsibility for something that's happened that causes us to become in that victim mentality. Like, they did this and he said that, and it's justifying or rationalizing or minimizing our behavior. And when we do that, we really become very small in that process. So in order to become I guess, bigger, more expansive, and to be able to hold more in your life, to have more, to have a healthy relationship, you need to take full responsibility for your life. And I think that's really exciting because there was a time when I didn't take responsibility for my life. I blamed everybody and everything that went wrong in my life. I really did believe that it was everybody else's fault. It's so crazy to think that. But when you're in that painful, hurt, feeling mentality, victim mode, it's easy to get caught up in it and stay in it because you really believe, and I really believe, that other people were causing me all this suffering, but it was all coming from inside of me. I hadn't made peace with my past. I hadn't overcome the abuse that I went through. I didn't know how to process my anger, and I was an angry woman. Okay, I was the last person that a man wanted to meet because I used to throw bricks, a lot of bricks, right? Darts. I would jump on that. And that was just my defensive maneuver to hide that I was in a lot of pain. And I really didn't know how to deal with the anger. And I come from a line of Italian women who they yell because they care. And I thought that was really funny at one point. But then when I woke up, spiritually speaking, I realized how dysfunctional that little joke was. And so I got to work on me and started to learn how to deal with anger and not clapping back, not going, wanting to fight back as soon as the brick comes in. And so you toss the brick back. Yeah, it doesn't feel good too, because you might initially throw that brick back and your ego will get yeah, that was great, I'm right. Because the ego wants the last word. It always wants to have the last word. So, and so you just, knowing that, it can help you, to, I hate to say the word bite your tongue, but just take time to pause and try to identify where the anger is coming from and what it's about, because typically it's sourcing from the past. And it's projecting itself into the future, especially if it's if it's a 10. So if you go from a 2 or a 0 up to a 10 really fast, then I would say that's about you, unless it's something very obvious that your boundaries have been violated. And so, and when I say a 10, I mean, like, have you ever been able to get to a 10? If you're a human being, then you can get to a 10. A 10 is like when, a kid's running across the street and you're screaming at the top of your lungs for the kid to stop, for the car to stop. That's like a 10. Ah! So we've all been at a 10, but we want to stay at a 2, right around a 2 or below. And so when you feel yourself going up the scale, you want to notice that. And how you can notice it is in your body. That's where your body communicates with you when you're out of balance. So your feelings will come to you in physical sensations. So when I'm angry, my chest gets really tight and my shoulders get really tight. And I know that. So I can feel it coming up into my body. So that's why I'm always a big advocate for you to stay in your body, become more aware of your physical sensations, because there's messages there. There's messages from your intuition trying to send you messages that you're out of balance. Something's accessing you. Hope this is all making sense. And if you've been watching my channel for a while, I think you're picking up what I'm saying about that your feelings are in your body and they're messages from your intuitive heart to let you know what's going on with you. And you need to learn to make those distinctions between you and the people you share your life with so you can have a healthy relationship. The distinction meaning the feelings that you're feeling versus the feelings that they have. You need to know where to make those distinctions. And the more you spend time in your body in the present moment, the easier it is to become aware, to detect when your anger has been triggered. So let me just answer some questions. I don't see any questions here on Facebook, ladies, but I do see them on my YouTube, ladies. So I'm just going to answer some questions that are posted here in the comment box, okay? And so, hi everybody, nice to see you. Let's see, I'm just reading the comments here. Yeah. Be gentle with yourself when you recognize that you've thrown, clapped back, you've thrown the brick back. It's not going to help you to make yourself feel worse. Forgive yourself. And there's a technique called observe and correct. Observe and correct your less than perfect behavior as soon as humanly possible so it doesn't drain your life force energy. Give yourself a break, okay? You're doing the best you can. I really believe that. And so we throw gutter balls in life so that we can learn. They're lessons. They're not, they're sometimes painful, but if we learn, then we won't do it again. And so they do serve a purpose in our lives, but you have to be gentle with yourself and not be hard on yourself. Otherwise you can become, emotionally depressed, and I don't want that for you. And so, hi Susan, love you too. So, let's see. How do you react to disrespect? I go 0 to 60 in 2 seconds flat. That's a good one. How do you react to disrespect? Well, you don't react. That's what I'm wanting to teach you. Is reacting comes from a place of unconsciousness. It's a trigger, and the brick comes in, and you need to take a moment to analyze the brick. Is it yours or is it somebody else's? If you're going from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, then that means it's touching on your infected toe. So if somebody steps on your toe, it hurts. If it hurts an hour later, it was already infected. So that's a rule of thumb. So you have a little infection, somebody comes and steps on it and they say something disrespectful, then you go to 0 to 60, then you're like, okay, it wasn't nice and it was disrespectful, but it's how you react to it that really sets the tone for your self-respect. So you respond. So some cases you don't respond at all because it's not even appropriate. If somebody says something that's really negative, insulting, I would just walk away from that, because you have to look at the source, right? Look at that person who just called you a name or did something. It's like you have to consider them. Why would you have a conversation with them when they're not capable of having a calm, empowered conversation with you? So I would not even acknowledge it. I would distance myself from that person if they were really disrespectful. And maybe if they're in your family, in your life, maybe you say, I'd like to set an appointment to discuss this with you at another time when you're more calm, because I'm not going to allow myself to sit here and be ridiculed. It's inappropriate, and I don't have to sit here and take it. So you can vote with your feet and get out of there. And when you get out of there, you want to take time to process, how big the trigger was for you. And maybe some of the things that were triggered there's some truth in it. It's called mirroring. And so sometimes people do say things that trigger us because we recognize the behavior. Maybe we've been like that before, or somebody in our life has treated us that way before. And so we have a trigger for it. So you want to spend time really getting to the thing behind the thing with that anger. I hope that helps. How do you regain trust if someone has broken up with you multiple times but says they love you and want to be with you? That's a really good one. Well, how to regain trust. So here's what I want to tell you. You want to trust yourself more than anything. You want to look at why you've agreed to go back to this person multiple times. And so right now you have boundary violations against yourself. I have done this personally many times. With my first marriage, I went back many, many times, and I knew what was going on, but I still went back. And that had to do with me. It had to do with why I was feeling insecure, why I thought it would be different. It was mostly because I was afraid to move on, because I didn't want to be alone. That's why. I was in fear. It was a fear-based impulse on my part because I wasn't ready to move forward in my life, and I didn't have the tools. So I stayed and I went back into the pattern. And so you really want to look at what it is that you're going back to, and building trust again after somebody broke up with you many times. That's really hard to do. And you want to look at, be honest with yourself. Why did they do that? And what is behind it? Because trust is gained in inches and it's lost in miles. So in other words, trust is incrementally created. And then when it's taken away, it's like miles apart, and it takes inches to get back to that. So sometimes I don't recommend it. Sometimes you chalk it up for experience, and as painful as that is, sometimes it's better that way. There's a reason why you keep breaking up, and you want to look at that and not avoid it. Sometimes we keep going back because we avoid our truth, and the truth might be that we're too afraid to move on, like I shared, and we're afraid of the unknown. We don't know if we're going to meet anybody else. we might feel like we're too old, to this, to that. And so we stay in dysfunctional relationships. So I hope that helps you. Yeah, I was comfortable. Yeah, I was uncomfortable in my uncomfortableness. It wasn't uncomfortable, but I had grown to be comfortable in that misery. So there was some um, a comfort zone, even though it wasn't really healthy. At least I knew what to expect, and that's called abuse. You know, anytime there's these kind of emotional whiplash, it's very abusive because now we're getting into a whole talk about intimacy. And so I just want to go back to this comment here. Yeah. So I'm sorry about that, Terry. So yeah, when people were angry all the time, just know that it's not about you, it's about them. It's about something that they haven't healed, and it's inside of them based on their past experiences, and you might come along and exasperate it, but it's not you. And so you really need to sit down and have a conversation with that person. And I'm glad that he's your ex-husband and you aren't being treated poorly anymore, Terry. Okay, so let me look and see if there's any other questions that I can answer. Good. Yeah, and so here's how you can do some deeper work on the anger. So I want you to use a sentence completion. It's a little tool that I use, and so what you do is you say, "I go back because," and you answer that question about 5 times. I go back to my ex because I'm lonely. I go back to my ex because I'm afraid. I go back to my ex because I really wanted to work out. I love him. I go back to my ex because I have low self-worth. Ooh, there it is one. I go back to my ex because I don't feel I'm good enough to attract anybody else. So now that I heard that, I can turn it around. Because I'm not good enough to attract anybody else, because I have a belief that I'm not good enough to attract anybody else, I stay. I stay in dysfunctional relationships. I don't believe that there's somebody out there that will want me. So you can now find the truth. It's usually some really deep-seated, unconscious negative belief about yourself. That I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, all that crazy kind of thinking that has to stop. If you want to be in a healthy relationship, it has to stop with you, though. As soon as you stop that unconscious negative belief that I'm not worthy, lovable, good enough, have to be perfect, then what can happen is you can heal that, and then you can really attract a man that sees your worth because you see it. So it's worth doing that deeper dive into your psyche so you can uncover and shine the light on those blocks. And ladies, I have an announcement. You're welcome. And so I got one more question I'm going to answer. And I want to tell you that I just invited my community to my retreat in New York City. I'm so excited. And that's going to be at the end of October. And we're going to work for 3 days on breaking these patterns, bringing them to our awareness and being able to release them once and for all. That's a really powerful experience. And in the backdrop of New York City. So we're going to have some amazing excursions. We're going to do a deep dive. We're going to flirt, have fun. I'm going to be your wing woman, and you're going to be able to pull back the curtain, so to speak, and talk to my husband, Michael, who's going to reveal all kinds of things about men. And you're going to have an opportunity to get coached by me and by Michael. And so I hope you will, I'm going to put the link in the box below. You can fill out a form, and then I will jump on the phone with you, and possibly you'll be meeting me in New York. I would love to meet you ladies that are in my community and be able to help you transform your life in this full 3-day immersion experience in New York City. It's going to be fantastic. I did a retreat earlier this year in Las Vegas. It was amazing. And I did a retreat last year in October in New York. And that's why I'm going back, because it's really magical to be there with other empowered women working on your stuff. And you can make leaps and bounds. The growth is exponential when you commit yourself to a 3-day process where you just do these deep dives. And it's going to be really fun, because the feminine quality is all about having pleasure and fun. And so it's going to be a very gentle approach, but I know that you're going to really be able to transform your life and get yourself in a wonderful place before the end of the year, so that you can really attract your soulmate sooner than later. Okay, that's my objective, to help you get settled down. And I'm just approaching my 4th anniversary with Michael. It's September 13th, and I'm really excited to be celebrating that. That 6 years ago, I was online dating and met Michael online. And so we're going strong after 6 years, and we have a lot of wisdom that we'd like to share with you to help you do the same thing. Okay, let me read one more question, and then I'm going to end the broadcast. And so I'm just reading it so I can make sense of it before I repeat it. Yeah. And so I would love someone that reciprocates. So I can grow with a man, and it's me that loves him, and I treat him nice. I hope one day I love him. I hate to be alone. Well, thank you for being so honest and transparent. Being alone is something that I would invite you to learn to love being with yourself. I think part of the reason that I felt like I didn't like to be alone before is because I didn't like myself. I didn't like what that meant, being alone. I would worry about the future or stress out about the past. And so being alone just was a quiet moment for me to go into my head and think about all the problems I had. And that's one of the reasons I didn't like to be alone. But when I started to heal that part of me, those feelings of being alone started to ease up, and I started to enjoy the quiet moments, because when you do that healing on a deeper level, what you do is you create space. You create space for someone to come in. But when you're stuck in that energy of loneliness, it takes up all the energy and takes up all the space, and it's hard for a man to come into that, because he senses that he has to he meet all of these needs that you have, because you're so lonely and sometimes needy. And don't take that the wrong way. I don't want to mean to hurt your feelings or anything, but when we're coming from that loneliness place, it's a place of lack and scarcity. You're kind of saying that I don't believe that I deserve it, or I don't believe it can happen for me. But when you come from a place that, like, I love me and I love my life and I have room and space for someone else, then you will attract somebody. Because men don't want to take on that needy energy. It kind of repels them because they don't know how to help you. The needs are yours, not a man's. You have to learn to fulfill your own emotional dependency needs. And I'm going to close with this. Your emotional dependency needs are your unconditional self-love, unconditional self-acceptance, your boundary protection, and your intimacy skills. Intimacy meaning into me I see. So you have to meet all those needs: love, acceptance, intimacy, and boundaries for yourself. When you practice that on a regular basis, you start to feel really safe inside. You feel less lonely. And then when you feel less lonely, you start to be more expansive, and you create a space for a man to come in. And again, these are the things that I'm going to be teaching you in my retreat, that you can have this exponential growth experience, because I'm there with you, and I'm guiding you through this process so that you can wake up, the light bulbs to start going on, and things start to click for you, and you can catapult yourself forward on your journey to love. Okay, ladies, I hope this was helpful. I've really enjoyed being here with all of you. I love doing the live YouTube. Thank you so much for following my channel, ladies, and for you on Facebook. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure you like my Facebook page if you haven't, so that you receive a notification when I go live again. And I'm still trying to figure out when to notify the people on YouTube when I'm going live. I'm working on that, unless maybe you did receive a notification. And I'm also redoing my office. I'm really excited. I'm creating a beautiful set here so that I can push the camera back and you can see more of me instead of just the top of my head in this little chair. I'm going to create a beautiful space to welcome you into. So I'm really excited about doing that. I'm having a chaise right now redone in red, and I'm going to have some beautiful fabrics here and some flowers, and it's going to be really fun. So look for that in September. And so thanks again for everybody for being here, and I'm just sending you so much love. I'll post a link in the box below about the retreat and how you can get a hold of me, okay? Bye. Have a great weekend. Bye. Love you. Okay, here we go.